Guys around the globe and the great beyond, welcome back to another installment of the Guy Stuff podcast. I am your host, Anthony Claiborne, joined as always, all the way from Thailand, John the Red Man. SB is with us as always today.
What's up, guys?
I dubbed him that recently, John the Red Man SB. That is his new fight name. And he's going to walk out to either A Country Boy Can Survive by Hank Williams Jr. or It's Raining Men. We can't quite decide which one of those will be.
Like I said, it always depends on the crowd, baby. You got to work the crowd. If I'm hanging out where Damo's hanging out, It's Raining Men. That's mostly the times that song will come out. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So if you're watching on the YouTube channel, and if you're not, what are you doing with your life? But if you're not watching on the YouTube, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, rather, our good friend today is appearing in a mask, and it looks like he might be in a nail salon, but he's not. And the mask is not even because of COVID-19. We want to protect his identity. That's the kind of people we have on the Guy Stuff podcast. We have some serious people up in here. And so we want to protect his identity because of what he does. And John's going to tell us a little bit about what he does and who he is.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited, man. I'm always happy to have any of our guests on, but I'm especially excited today to have my good friend Damo here. Damo is the head rescue agent for Destiny Rescue. He has been with them a long time. Me and him have been friends for a long time, and I'm just so excited to have him here. And just in case, let you know what Destiny Rescue does. Destiny Rescue goes into bars and brothels all over the world in order to help rescue children from child slavery and child prostitution. So, man, we're so excited to have him here. And Damo, thanks so much for coming on, brother.
No worries, man. It's good to be here. My actually first podcast, I think. So
really,
pleasure.
We're your first. You're no longer a podcast virgin. We're we're excited, man.
Yeah,
I'm excited you chose to give that to us. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Joe Rogan asked me to get on his show, but I declined and came on this one. So
that's right, Joe.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
not good enough for Damo.
He kept hassling me all the time.
He does that, man. I heard he does that. That's how he gets all those people on, man. He just keeps hassling them. But we got the contacts with the most. Now, we got the guys that are the really cool guys. I really want to thank you for coming on, man. Just to tell you a little bit about what the podcast is about. Our heart is to bring on guys specifically who love Jesus, but also are walking in the calling that God's called them to do some hard things. And so one of the things we wanted to do is have you on to kind of explain and walk us through what you do, what some of the things you've seen, and how God has kept you sane during this endeavor that you do. So if you could just walk us through some of that a little bit. Tell us actually, before you even start, how you got started in doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, from Australia, and that's where Destiny Rescue started out. One of my best mates had a vision, had a dream to rescue children from sexual exploitation. 10 years ago, sexual slavery was massive. It was starting to become more popular or well known, especially within the Christian communities and that sort of thing. So he had a desire. I got involved with it early and moved to Thailand about 10 years ago. And at first we really didn't know how to rescue. There was no manuals or no Google telling you how to go and rescue children from exploitive situations. So a lot of trial and errors, a lot of mistakes were made. And but 10 years down the track, we've made some great connections with law enforcement agencies throughout Asia, and are doing quite a good job. We've rescued over 5,000 victims of human trafficking in the last since 2013. So God's had His hand on us, and is just blessing the organization tremendously.
That's amazing, man. I know some of our guys are probably wondering this. Was there any, and I know that you may not be able to talk about all of it, I'm not sure, but was there anything in your background with like military service, police service, anything like that, that, you know, prepared you and kind of gave you the propensity for this? Or is it just, you're just like, guys, man, and you're like, you know what, I may not have the skills, but we're going to develop the skills and we're going to just get this done?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I had, I had a plumbing business back home in Australia, and really had no idea on what it would look like over here. But we just, you know, prepared ourselves and got help. Like, for example, John, in his ministry, we went to him because there was one time we got into a big fight in a bar, basically locked in, and we had to fight our way out. And it really scared us. And we realized that, we needed help to get our skill levels up to where we could protect ourselves. So, early on in John's ministry, we went to him and said, listen, can you train us? And we've been involved ever since. And SWAT Ministries has been training us and our rescue guys all over the world. So, but yeah, it was just something. Is that noisy?
It's all right. It sounds like somebody blowing their nose a lot. It's okay.
It's manly. It's manly, yeah. So it's all good.
It's a torque wrench going on. Anyway. So,
they are torturing a trafficker right now, in case you are wondering.
That's right. That's right.
That's how we deal with these mugs.
We've got him hung up, and electric shock's going on to his old fella right now. So yeah, I mean, we've acquired skills over the time, and we've learnt, like I said before, we've learnt by our mistakes and things like that on what to do, what not to do, and to the point now that law enforcement over here in Asia are coming to us with job requests, like asking us to help them with jobs. So again, it's just God sort of like just guided us the whole time in what and how to take the next step into rescuing these kids. And every case is different, so you're always learning, you're always adapting to coming up with a solution to remove a child or a victim from that dangerous situation. So it's always a learning process. You can never say that you've reached the end. You never say that you've learned enough or know enough. Anyone who says that to you is kidding themselves. You always got to be learning and equipping yourself to get the job done.
So that's one thing that I credit Destiny Rescue a lot with, even the founding of SWAT Ministries, because once you start something like that, like you said, like it's kind of you're kind of overwhelmed at first. You don't know. You have all these doubts, like should I do this? Should I not do this? But I watched Destiny, and Destiny was a kind of organization that said, we don't have all the answers, but we're going to do something. We're just going to start taking action, and we'll figure it out on the fly. And right. that helped me to have the confidence to go, man, we can do this. We can step out and start doing something and just taking action, and then like I said, learn as you go. And some people may not like that method, but at least you're doing something. At least you're taking an action. You've seen a problem, and you're taking action to fix it. And I think that's something that really speaks to men. And I'd like to tell any guy that's kind of on the fence about doing anything and scared to do something, man, take action and do it, and step out there, and God will guide your steps. Man, if you trust in Him, you're doing it for Him. He'll guide your steps.
There's a saying we always hear in the American church a lot, at least in the South. I've heard this a lot. God doesn't necessarily always call the equipped; He equips the called, and so He gives you the tools. And you see that in Scripture so often. God is either preparing somebody way back here, a little step by step, or He calls somebody like Gideon. I think about Gideon when I think about Damo. The story of Gideon. He's on the threshing floor, and God's like, "Hey man, build your army."
But you're thinking about him because Gideon was about 4 feet tall, and so Damo is about 3.5. So it's about how it works out. So that's why there's a connection.
That makes it easier to do single leg takedowns, though, man, because he's right
this
there.
This chair is 6 foot high, man.
Yeah, sure it is.
What thing you said though, man, that stuck out to me, and I just want to draw this out real quick before we ask you the next question is I wrote it down. So if
Yeah, yeah,
you said you're always learning, always trying to become more equipped. And I think that that's an important point for guys out there who want to chase in Jesus and live for Jesus. You should always be learning. I think one of the big struggles, at least in the American church, has been a lot of times guys, at least I saw this growing up, guys would get to a certain point and they stop growing. It's kind of like,
yeah,
all right, or they get to a certain age and stop serving. I taught Sunday school back in 1981. Well, that's nice. What are you doing now? you
yeah,
know, I mean, you could be praying. There's a lot of things you do. Our job as God-fearing, Christ-following men is not done until the moment we close our eyes on this side. And
that's
maybe
right.
you think about what my man Damo is doing around the world. Guys like him, guys like John. Quite honestly, I mean, I want to be doing more. John and I talk about this all the time. Like, I want to be more involved, but God's got me in a specific place to do specific things to support what they're doing. And so you can and need to be involved. And we feel very strongly you're going to hear us talk a lot about things like sex trafficking on this program. And if that makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. No, I'm not actually. But
Sorry, not
the
sorry.
not sorry, because the world's economy,
No,
the
not
whole
sorry.
world,
It's happening.
Exactly.
well, the
Whether you
whole
talk
world
about it or not.
economy works on supply and demand. And we figured if
Yeah,
we can do away with a little bit of the demand, maybe that'll take some pressure off the supply. But let me ask you this question: you've rescued around 5,000 children, in the last several years.
yeah.
If you can, what happens? Like what is the process of bringing these kids when you bring these kids out of these situations, of helping them be restored to a fullness and of where
Sure.
they might have been?
Well, our first and foremost priority is to remove the victim or the child from the situation, the harmful situation they're in. Now that can be done a couple of ways. One is working with the law enforcement agencies, and we'll actually conduct a raid and raid the premises, and take those victims into I guess you'd say into care, into custody, and then the process is process. There's processes to be done. Putting the girls into aftercare facilities and things like that, and then those that have been selling the victims, that they're arrested and prosecuted. The second way we rescue is what we call covert rescues, is where we will build relationships with the girls in the bars or in this environment that they're working in or being made to work in, and try and get them to come out on their own accord if they can. And then what happens with those girls, they are placed into our aftercare programs where if it's safe, they will live at home. If the mum and dad hasn't been involved in selling them or exploiting them and putting them into these exploitive situations, and it's a safe environment, we'll help them to finish off schooling. We'll help them to get an education, finish their education, and then get some sort of, pre-vocational course done, or and get into a job once they get that little bit older. And then again, yeah, so it's basic. And then we have our homes, where the girls will come into our homes, and then we take care of them in our homes, where again, there's the healing. There's a program called Empower, which is all about forgiveness. And we get the kids to do that, or go through that, so that they can get to a point where when they leave our programs, they're in a good spot where they've forgiven their abusers, and they've got the skills then to go and get some sort of full-time employment, or are able to go back and finish their education. So every child is different. Every case is different. There's no rubber stamp for one victim. It's just depends on a lot of things, on where that child will go to get the healing that they need.
That's good.
So one of
So
the
yeah,
things
it
that
really depends.
So one of the things that I've when we go around speaking about it, or even probably you've heard it yourself, Damo, is you have people that are, when you start talking about sex trafficking, especially in places like Southeast Asia, you hear a lot of people say, well, those girls, they want to be there. They want to be in there. They want to do this. This is how they make their money. They would, and how would you answer some people that would say that? I'm sure probably even somebody maybe listening to this podcast may be thinking that themselves, or may have, especially military guys, have been through Southeast Asia and may have even visited these places. What would you say to people
Yeah.
that would be thinking that?
Well, yeah, it definitely appears that way sometimes. The way that the girls act, and again, particularly the bars that a lot of Westerners frequent. But after spending long time in there, you get to watch those girls from a distance, and you'll see when they're with a customer, they're flirtatious, they're acting a certain way to make that customer feel comfortable, making him feel like he's all that when he's not. And the minute he goes to the bathroom or leaves or whatever, you can see her whole demeanor change to where this emptiness comes upon her, and she's just like, you can just see that she is not wanting to be there. I mean, you just got to put yourself in that in her situation. You know what I mean? Like, anyone who says that, the lady or the girl wants to be there, really, you want to, in some cases, having 10 to 15 customers a night. You really want to be doing that sort of thing. So I think anyone who says that doesn't understand what's really happening. And again, it's all just that, it's all pressure from the owners of the bars, the mama-sans, the pimps, to make these girls perform a particular way, obviously to get more customers. And if they don't, they get beaten. If they don't, they're they're forced to do these sorts of things. That's girls at an older age, right? But you've got kids that are rescued as young as 4 years old. And you can't tell me those kids want to be doing that sort of thing. So anyone who says that, I think they need to pull their head out of their backside and, really, really get on a plane again and watch from a distance, really watch what's going on. I think most of those people that say that sort of stuff are probably being customers themselves in the past, not with underage, but with
Yeah.
with prostitutes.
One of the things that maybe you can give us a couple stories, and it may give a filter for people who are listening to this and trying to get a grasp on this. What's probably some of the most disgusting or horrific situations that you've personally seen or your team's seen that could give us and our listeners an idea of what these girls and kids have to go through sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, there's heaps, but I guess one particular situation was up near where you are at the moment, up in northern Thailand, and um, it was early on in our days, and we would used to ride on our motorbikes, just bar hopping basically in regional areas of Thailand, and we came across this one place, a bamboo hut, basically, and it was a karaoke bar / brothel, and the girls in there were they weren't too young, they're about 15, 16 years of age, right? And they were available for sex for 200 baht. Now, at the time, 200 baht, it was about $5 or something like that, right? And in that $5, the mama-san got their cut. There was a condom, and that paid for the room as well. So this kid's probably walking away with a couple of bucks in a pocket to be sleeping with customers every night. And that really hit home to me, just how vulnerable these kids are. Another story, after we rescued these kids, because a lot of the stories obviously come out once we've rescued them, because you never know the full story. But these two little beautiful girls, they were about 13, 14, tiny little things, tiny little Thai girls. We'd rescued them in a village, and a remote karaoke bar, and these kids were tricked to, there was a a recruiting lady that went to their village and said, "Hey, listen, I've got a job for someone in a restaurant if you want to come and work." And so these kids, they're doing it tough because, rural, if there's no rain and, the crops aren't growing, then families are starting to struggle, right? So yeah, okay, we'll go. So it was a 2-hour drive in the back of a pickup truck. And these kids had no phones, didn't know where they were going, and got to this place. And it was, again, just a bamboo shack, couple of buildings. And they were bundled and forced into this one room where there was an older teenage boy in there, about 18, 19 years of age. And these kids were virgins, and with a video camera running, he raped both of them, basically broke them in to start work at this karaoke / bar where customers would come, they'd drink, and then can have sex with the kids. Now, these kids they didn't know where they were. They weren't in a built-up area. It was like a standalone building out in the middle of rice fields. Cops come to visit, the bar, and so they tried to, make it known that they were not wanting to be there. Turns out they were the owners of the bar. The police were the owners. So even that, if they could get to a police station or in that area, they would have been taken straight back there. And it was only because of our rescue agents that went to that particular bar, they had the opportunity of being rescued. And as soon as, obviously, they said, do you want to get out? We've got a way of helping you. They were there. So
wow. You go ahead, Damo. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, that's some of. I mean, again, I can't say the country, but there's a place in Asia where, there was. We went into this brothel, and there's generational prostitutes there. So there's grandma, the mum, and then the kids are all in this one building. And they brought out a 4-year-old kid for us, and 2 8-year-old kids. And the 4-year-old at the time was being prepared. I don't know. You probably don't want to, but imagine what was happening to her to get her ready to have sex with an adult. But the 2 8-year-olds were already active and being sold for sex. So we had the privilege again of rescuing those kids and getting them out, and they've been through the aftercare program and are doing really well. Another one, this is probably the worst. Myself and Tony, who's the founder, we were taken to this, again, a country I can't disclose. And we were in the back of, these alleyways, and, there's cows walking across the road and little carts and that sort of thing. And we were being taken there by our informant. And the thing is that there was this lady selling these children. And we were going as customers to view the child, to then get the information to take back to the police so that we could execute the raid. So we knock on this door, and it opens, and this lady meets us there, and she says, "Yes, come." She takes us up this small corridor staircase to the top, where we walk into this small 3 meter by 3 meter bedroom. And we're told to sit. So we sit, and in the corner, there's a bed with a Mickey Mouse Doona cover or something like that on it, and a few kitty pictures on the walls. And one by one, these girls are paraded into the bedroom, and for us to choose. Turns out these kids, where they were was a breaking in room, like a halfway house before they get to go to these brothels, where they had put electric shocks on their genitals to break them in. And these kids were like 11 and 12 years old. So they would electrocute them to make them submit to what was going to happen to them. And one of the hardest things was to leave them kids there to take this evidence back to the cops to obviously rescue more. But, every bit of me wanted to rip that little old lady's head off and roll it down the stairs. And there was another guy that was guarding them as well. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done, is to walk out of that room knowing that another day or two those kids had to put up with that sort of crap. So
and that's something.
Yeah, that's just a few stories.
Something that touched on there is how you have to play the long game. There's a lot of people that may be
Yeah,
listening, and especially guys that are, have that warrior mindset, or maybe former military guys that want to kick doors in and just snatch people up. Um,
yeah,
and you know that that's thinking very short term. You have
mm,
to play the long game and get them out for good. And so, how do you
that's
how
right.
do you have to deal with that? Like, how do you what's the spiritual struggle that happens when you have to walk out of those buildings and you have to leave them there? What keeps you able to even sleep at night with witnessing that? What gets you through that?
For me now, it's the knowing that our teams, my rescue agents that I've got there, they get the job done. Like I
Mm.
know I have the confidence in them that if I can give them the evidence or give them the material that they need, that the next step, it's just a matter of time. We're going to get them out though, and we're going to prosecute those that have been selling them. So it's trusting God. Like it's believing God, and I guess my prayer uh, in those times is show us, God, how we can get these kids out. Like, please, let this happen, that these kids are going to be rescued. It doesn't always work, unfortunately, and I don't know why. I don't know why. And that's some of the hardest times when you know that you've missed the opportunity to rescue a child, and then for whatever reason she disappears, or you've the case has been exposed or blown through a tip off or something like that, whatever it might be. But they're probably the hardest times. But the thing that gets me through that is just focusing on the next victim.
Mm.
Like if you're staying back here focusing on, oh, we missed it, oh, woe is me, um, you're going to stay there. But we just move on. I use it's funny, as you know, John, we have a bit of dark humor within us, sometimes, and I really think that's a coping mechanism sometimes, right?
That's something I
So
actually
I
want
remember,
to touch on is that
A
dark humor
defense
that
mechanism, yeah.
happens in a lot of that stuff.
yeah, yeah. So I can remember we went Philippines one time. We took a trip. It was like a 4-hour trip, and we were going to raid a complex or compound with about 78 victims in it. It was going to be the largest Philippine raid ever in history. And anyway, long story short, there was a tip off, and the victims weren't there. And it was a long 4 hours back, and I can remember sitting in this
Wow.
minivan with all the rescue boys, and we're sitting there, and for about 2 hours, no one spoke. We're just gutted because we felt like that was our chance. And then someone farted, and it just broke the atmosphere to the
There
point it
it
was like,
is again,
dude, you
proving once
dirty
again.
mongrel, what the heck? And then we just started laughing, and it was almost like a switch that it was like, hey, you know what? Let's not dwell on this. Let's focus on the next case. Let's focus on the next victim. We started making jokes. We started cracking up, and we it still hurt. Like it was like someone had kicked you in the balls, but we moved on, and the ache was still there. But we were refocused, and we ended up going back a few months later and rescuing 70 something victims from that complex compound. So
Wow.
you know, it's just one of those things that sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But unfortunately for us, and being that we're a Christian organization, I believe that the reason it happens more often than not that we rescue these kids is because God is on our side.
Man. Yeah, you hit on one thing that I think is very important to pull out that John and I have been discussing, that in fact fart humor is a worldwide phenomenon. So thank you for once again proving that fart humor, potty humor is in fact worldwide. So thank you. Uh, appreciate that.
And very therapeutic. It's very
It
therapeutic.
is
See,
very therapeutic. It just
Yeah, man.
releases everything.
You
But
need it. You need it sometimes.
you
It's serious.
do.
It gets serious.
What jumps out to me, and a question some of our guys may have, and I've just been listening to you, and I'm a father of a 17-year-old daughter, and I can't imagine what I just can't. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not even going to say on the podcast how I would feel if something happened to her. It might be used later against me in a court of law or something. So um, I might have to be on the phone with you guys. Hey, I need a favor.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
seriously, gosh, like for the two-part question, one for the guys who have kids, how do they cope with this? Two, what happens to these, because these children to these pimps and mama sons are commodities. They're not people.
correct.
So what
Yep.
happens to them once they have served their purpose?
It depends. Most of the times I would say is that they're free to go, and they, if their body is torn, and broken, they'll stay prostituting themselves out. Like they know nothing else. There are stats that you could look at, and I won't quote them because I'm not sure, but there's a really short lifespan for girls that work in this industry. I think it's about 7 years. I think it could be less.
Hmm.
So, like Pattaya is a classic example of that, where there's a beachfront there on Pattaya, and Pattaya, for your listeners that aren't aware of it, it's a coastal city within Thailand. It's probably the sex capital of the world, I'd say. And there's a lot of evil that goes on there, but there's a place called Coconut Bar, and it's basically the beach strip, right? And it's probably a kilometer of just coconut trees. And in the evenings, the prostitutes go down there and freelance. But dude, some of the ages of these prostitutes down there, and just they're probably not. I don't know what age they would be, but they look old. You know what I mean? Look worn. They look.
Kind of like
The
you look without the
demeanor's
mask
gone.
on. Kind of like you without the mask. Is that what you
Exactly.
look like?
After that time, I did 5 minutes of rolling with you, and I nearly died. That's probably what they're looking like, right? But yeah, they're just, you can see that they've obviously worked a life in the bar, but then they're too old, and I'm going to say it, too ugly, not attractive anymore. They're not what the clientele want anymore. So they're tossed out on the streets, and then the only way, they've got no skills, man. So they've got to keep going with what they've got. So they're selling themselves for a couple of bucks down on the beachfront to you know whoever will take them, and it's basically a day-to-day living.
So to our listeners, to the guys who are listening, everybody can't, or everybody's not called to
Mm.
to leave and go over there. And I feel like sometimes men are all or nothing. We tend to be all or nothing. We like, which that's a whole nother like that's a whole nother conversation to have, right? Men tend to be
Yes.
all or nothing, and so they feel like, well, I can't be Liam Neeson. So, which that's a whole nother conversation about how that hurt traffic, people who fight trafficking. But what ways can they be involved to support what you guys do? And since John won't talk about it himself, what can they do to support what John's doing? Because what I wrote down a while ago, there's for me, and there's these three organizations come to my mind that kind of represent a triumvirate, a triangle of fighting sex trafficking. And they're just three organizations. There are many other organizations. These are just the ones I know. But you've got SWAT, who trains the rescuers and and helps them, and then you've
Yep.
got Destiny, who's actually doing the running ops, and then you've got like Zoe, who is helping with aftercare. Is that correct? Is that fairly accurate? Like Zoe International,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and
I believe
they
so.
do
Yeah.
some work as well in
they do
interdiction.
work as well.
But a lot of their stuff's
Yeah.
African. A lot of their stuff's African.
But then it comes back over again. In John and the guys at SWAT also help these women and girls to train and become confident. So there's like
Yep.
this very like symbiotic relationship between these organizations. What can our guys do? Because I'm gonna be real. I got to get on soapbox for just a minute.
Yep.
A lot of guys, at least in the American church, want to waste time with useless debates when
Correct.
there are women and children who need to be rescued. There are hungry that need to be fed. What can we do to get involved tangibly to support what you guys are doing? And guys, when he answers this, you have your pen ready, or you pull off your truck on the side of the road or in the McDonald's or Bojangles parking lot and get ready to take notes, because this is homework. Lay it on the
Bojangles.
Yeah.
You
table.
said Bojangles, man. Hold up.
Oh,
You can't
Angles,
throw
necesito más
you can't
pollo.
throw Bojangles at me and just jump right into something serious. Oh Lord,
Yo
that makes me.
quiero bojangles.
I want some freaking Bojangles biscuits, man. God. Oh.
All right.
Okay, I'm good now. All
Bold.
right. Whew. Go
Damo's
ahead
like,
there,
what
man.
is that?
Get it out of your system. Yeah, I don't know what the heck you're
When you
talking
It is.
another
It
come
language
to
is.
the
there.
States sometime and visit me,
Let
and
me
I
tell
will
you
hook you
a
up.
quick story. Let me tell you a quick story, and then I'll get into the serious side of it.
Yeah.
I went and had a few met a few of John's mates one
I'm
time,
sorry. I want to apologize for that in
and
advance.
and we're sitting around, and you know, uh, and we're talking, and to be honest, I probably got about 50% of the conversation. They're talking, and I'm scratching my head trying to keep up what they're talking about, and they're chewing and they're spitting and cigars and just chilling back. But dude, it was another language, and it, oh, it was pretty good. It was pretty interesting, and I think they had the similar trouble with me too, right? Like
Oh yeah, we can understand that. I
we're
can
struggling.
understand you because I've been around you for 10 years.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
like, but them jokers can understand nothing what you were saying. I'm just saying. And so this is something gonna
Exactly.
bleed into another episode, and we'll kind of.
Yeah.
But some of my friends in the South dip, right? Everybody
Yeah.
dips, like, and so Damo's on the up on the porch with us. Be like, hey, you need to try this dip. And so he's like, what? What? I can't do an
It
Australian
was the
accent,
worst
but
thing I've ever
so
done.
so, so just imagine Damo's stupid accent and saying, "What is dip? What is dip?" And so they get him. I just put some in there, so they get some in there, and he puts it in. And dude, I've never seen somebody almost puke so fast
Dude, I
than
went
Damo.
instantly sick.
Yeah, that's not good stuff,
It was
man.
like it's like sticking your finger in your bottom and having a sniff, you know, it's like, bang,
or
it's
sticking a
like
piece of it
gross, man.
between your cheek and gum.
Dude, it was like, and it made me dizzy, and it was just like, how the heck can you guys chew this? Anyway, it was bad,
Hey,
man.
so but you're
Um,
officially now part of the South because you did that. See?
oh yeah, all right.
It is, in fact, a rite of passage. So,
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so okay, getting involved. Two ways. One is financially, obviously. You know, SWAT Ministries and the likes of Destinies, we've been doing this sort of stuff for a while now, and we've developed, you know, our strategies and trainings and things like that to get the job done. And when I talk about this, I put a simple math equation out there that money equals rescues. Destiny is at a point now that the more money we can get, the more rescues we can rescue. And you know, and I don't know, people probably don't realize this, but SWAT Ministries is a massive part of Destiny Rescue. It's basically written into our policy, that rescue policy, that we have to train. So without SWAT Ministries, we can't be doing the jobs that we're doing. So they're a key factor. So they need financial help as well. They need to be able to continue to train us, not just us, but other rescue organisations as well, and not just in Thailand, but all over the world. I know we've sent them to all parts of Asia for us to, and they do it all off their own bat. They do it no cost to Destiny Rescue whatsoever. So they're a huge blessing to us. The other way, so money, number one, we need lots of money. The other one is we Tony and I, the founder of Destiny, have set up this other organization, totally separate to Destiny Rescue, called Rescue Ops. And it's way where people can pay to come onto a team and be part of an actual rescue operation. Now, the first 3 days, they get to roll around with John and learn self-defense, and SWAT Ministries train them in a really, really quick, practical course in how to defend yourself at street level. You know, if a weapon's pulled on you, if a gun's pulled on you, and how to basically create space and then get away. Situational awareness. How we teach them also, you know, the uses of video cameras, hidden cameras, how to act in a bar, how to, purchasing a child, right up to in the last few days of the 10-day course, you're actually part of an operation where you are the ones purchasing and being part of the what we call a burn agent, where it allows us who continue to live in Asia and work here, our identity doesn't get burnt. We get to use these guys that are on the team to be part of the raid and purchase the child for when the police come and make the arrest. So that's an intense 10-day course where we're slowly growing a team of guys all over the world to be what we call our burn agents that we can then call upon to do operations for us anywhere in the world. So that's another way that people can actually get physically hands-on with rescues.
And that's what I want to add there to for rescue. For guys maybe going, oh, well, I'm not a military guy. I'm not a law enforcement guy. Man, there's people on that team from all walks of life. They've had special
Sometimes
forces
it's
guys
better
there.
not to be that.
Yeah. You've had people from special forces to youth pastors, and people from all walks of life. And man,
I think 60 is our oldest guy. So
yeah,
60, 65. So, and our youngest has been 18. So we've, there's a broad spectrum. Ladies, this year, if it wasn't for COVID, we would have had a few ladies already done the training as well. So we can utilize those in the bars and that as well to be trained up. So it's not just for the men, but it's for women
that's something
well.
Like with that you touched on there with women and stuff, and that's like for ways for women to get involved in doing this that's a perfect way. I mean, because people may not understand it and may not realize why, but out of like Western guys that you walk into a bar, all the girls, they've been abused by Western guys. If you're a Asian male going in there, they've been abused by Asian male. The people that have not likely abused them is a Western female. And so
exactly.
likely, I'm not sure it happens, but women have a level of trust walking in the door that a guy necessarily wouldn't, and they can get a lot of information from them that a guy would take a long time to get. They can get within a few minutes, and so I think that's a way, like you said, with the burn teams for men and women to get involved in this fight, hands-on directly there. And I think it's a great way. Rescue Op is a great organization doing that.
If you want something that'll change your life, I really recommend people coming on it. I mean, and also it benefits us, Destiny Rescue, because the more people that we can call upon to do these short-term trips, where it might be only a 3-day trip or 4-day trip, and then disappear again, it's just perfect for us. And we need an army, all over the world to be able to tackle and fight this sexual slavery. But that's it. 2 ways. Maybe we can put a link to our website or an email at the end of this podcast.
Absolutely. In the description of both the podcast and the YouTube, we'll put links to everything. And guys, look, we've given you 2 very tangible ways to be involved. And I feel a little bit like a old preacher about to give the invitation call. John, start singing "Just As I Am" for us, brother.
Just as I am.
There you go. But I feel very convicted that we have a responsibility as Christian men to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves, whether it be homeless or domestic violence victims or slaves. I mean, there are more slaves alive today in the world than there were in 1865 at the end of the American Civil War. And we talk all the time, God, what is your will for my life? God, he's laid it out, fellas. Be a father to the fatherless. He's laid it out. And to rescue captives, go and make disciples. He's laid this stuff out in black and white and sometimes red. So I want to encourage you. Maybe you can't go. Maybe like even going and being a burn agent is like, not going to work for you, but you can do something. And I just want to encourage you. And I'll tell you something too that I know was on Damo's mind, and he probably he he just didn't say it. We need to be praying, guys. We need to be praying for guys like Damo and John and others who were out in the field fighting this evil in the world, because he said something a while ago that caught my attention. This strip on this of bars in Thailand, there's great evil there, and I didn't even tell Damo this, but I was a history teacher for years, and there are spiritual forces at work in places like Thailand. You're not dealing just with the bad men; you are dealing with demonic, evil influences that have been at work in those areas literally for thousands of years. I have read, Damo, I've actually read diplomats, I won't say from what country, but ancient diplomats' writings about the sex trade in Thailand from a few thousand years ago.
Mm.
And so we're dealing with, like Paul writes, we are dealing with principalities and powers and these places. We need to be praying for these guys. They need the prayer cover going in. They need that, guys. So I want to challenge you to take a dry erase marker and put it on your mirror in your bathroom right after, brush your teeth, like for your to-do list for the day. Pray for those who are out trying to rescue these kids. John, I'm gonna throw it to you to wrap us up.
These guys like Damo, man, they're rock stars in our eyes. That's who our heart beats for. As SWAT ministries, I mean, everybody has a heart for the kids. Like, everybody does. I mean, and we all should. But where my heart beats for is, and I'm saying it to him, even though he's there, but he's I mean, he's part of my heart, right? And the guys that we get to train and we've been working with, man, they're our family, and we love them tremendously. My heart is for them, and if I want to see them be as safe as they possibly can and do their job, so they can go back and do it again the next night. And so, man, Damo, I tell you all the time, but man, I love you, and anybody that wants to help those guys, man, we're going to partner with you. If you're going on a burn team, you'll see my ugly face, for a couple days, and we're going to try to prepare you as we're going to try to prepare you as best we can, so you can do the job as well. And man, we just want to thank you, Damo, for coming on. And I know you got a book out here in a second, and maybe me and Anthony will stay on a little bit longer and do some commentating afterwards. But we just want to thank you for coming on,
man.
Damo. I appreciate you, brother.
Our pleasure. Can I leave you with one story? It's a real uplifting one. So I was heading out to another country, and I was really to paint the picture. I had to make a decision a few years ago to separate rescue guys from the aftercare facility. So in the early days, we used to get to see girls. We used to teach them self-defense, play volleyball, sports, go to church with them, all those sorts of fun, great stuff. And we'd see girls graduate and move on, but it was too dangerous for that to continue as we got bigger. So now we don't really get to see the aftercare side of it as a rescue agent. So there was a few years of that going on, and I was heading to another country where we were working, and I was kicking stones, and I was having a real whinge bitch with God about, God, is what we're doing working? Is it really working? Are we making a difference in these kids' lives? I don't want to go, where I was going and be away from family and all that sort of stuff. I was really, really was having a whinge. And it was midnight, and I was having an early flight, the international flight the next day. I was at Suvarnabhumi, an area, the big airport in Bangkok. And it was midnight, and I was walking from my hotel to the 7-Eleven. Now, there's a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic, a lot of night workers and shift workers from the airport that are always there, and there's markets, always food markets and that. So there's a lot of people around. I'm walking, I see the 7-Eleven in the distance, and I hear my name get called out. Damien. I'm like, oh crap, what's going on here? Anyway, I see these two figures, these girls running towards me, and as they get closer, I recognize who they were, so I drop my guard a bit, and they jump and they grab me, and they're jumping up and down, so excited and cuddling, and what are you doing here? La la la. Anyway, there's another couple that caught up to them, a man and a lady, and they turned to the two girls, our sisters. They turned and said, "This is the guy we've been telling you about. This is the man. This is him." So they're laughing, and I'm thinking, what's going on? I got really protective. I'm like, "What are you doing here?" thinking the worst, right? That they've gone back to the bars. No, and they're like, no, straight away defensive. No, we're not doing that. Like they said, we're nurses now. We're working in the hospital around the corner, and I started tears in my eyes, and they just going, thank you so much for what you've done. Thank you for what you and Destiny have done for us. We haven't been able to thank you before, because they disappeared, right? This was years down the track. And these kids were from Chiang Rai, right? God had put them at a miracle part in Thailand, strategically placed for that night where I was struggling, man. And it was like they left me there, tears in my eyes, trying to walk towards 7-Eleven. And it was like, basically God just said, there you go, son. This is why you're doing what you're doing. This is why we're part of a team, and getting these kids out. Because these kids went, and I remember back now, we put them through a pre-vocational course so they could do nursing and blah, blah, blah. And I can remember what they came out of, man. I can remember the shithole that they were in. And we got to rescue them and put them through this program. And they are now they became Christians and are still living for God, working in a hospital together, And then I went on and rescued these, went to that country the next day with such a purpose in my heart. Like, it was like a recharge, it was just like God was saying, there you go, Damo. That's why you're doing what you're doing.
Wow.
And, man, I was chuffed, man. I was like, let's go. And, have been ever since.
That's powerful,
good,
man.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you so much for sharing.
I wanted to leave you with that, and I appreciate you having me on. And please, all your listeners, please support SWAT Ministries, because we cannot do what we're doing without their help. They are a critical part of Destiny Rescue and other rescue organizations all around the world, especially in this time with COVID. Like, everyone's struggling, but do you know what? This is going to be the time. Once everyone starts to get back to normal, think about this. You're going to have months especially in Asia, where people have been doing it tough. There's no welfare packages here for people, right? So you're going to have families that are struggling financially, that are going to send their kids like lambs to the slaughter into these bars, into these places where they're so desperate that as soon as these bars open, as soon as these exploitation massages, karaoke bars all around Asia open, there's going to be an influx of these kids being pushed in there. So we need to be ready. We need to have the teams, which we have, but we need to be financially ready as well, because there's going to be a massive influx of these kids. And we've already prepped, we've already given the heads up to law enforcement agencies, and they're like, oh yeah, that's true. We've got to be ready. So listeners, please support us financially. Come on a team, be part of rescue ops, get your hands dirty. And I'll tell you now, you'll never be the same again.
Well, guys, thank you for listening. We have been challenged and reminded of the need to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're going to put links to Destiny and SWAT. We're going to put links to Destiny, SWAT, in some of this stuff. John's shaking his head at me because he doesn't want to feel like he's promoting what they do, but I feel like you guys need to know. So we also want to encourage you, if you've not joined the Facebook group, go over there and join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can know what's going on. God bless you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Peace.